Welcome to the Genealogy Happy Hour, a place where new family historians can learn to document their family histories and celebrate their new discoveries. I'm Amy.
And I'm Penny, and we're here to help you discover your family tree from the beginning. Welcome to episode 24. This episode, Amy and I are going to discuss research coast to coast. But first, before we get into that, as always, our wine selection.
Our wine choice. Well, we have another white wine this time because we really like white wine.
What we like, yeah.
And it's summertime and it's cool. Yes. And it's just hard to drink red wine in the summertime. So today we're going to highlight a Spanish wine that we just found. We were introduced to not too long ago. It's called an Albarino. It's a varietal that's grown in Galicia in predominantly northern Spain and Portugal. And the bottle we have today is Torre la Morera. And it's an Albarino. It's a full body, but light, citrusy, tropical, more like papaya, peach, melon, note to it. But I think it's perfect for the summertime.
Yeah. And I think we mentioned before that we'd started doing this little wine club tasting thing. And this was one of the choices there that Amy and I both liked.
At in Tampa at the Seminole Heights wine bar.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. They did Spanish wines that were, pretty okay. I really like this one.
Yeah. The Spanish Chardonnay, I like the Spanish Chardonnay as well, too. It's unoaked, so it's a little, not as heavy as the oaked that we get a lot here.
I'm still searching for a red wine that I'm going to like.
I know.
So if anybody has a suggestion, let us know, because I'm really searching. I really want to like a red, and I haven't found anything I really like. So anyway,
we're going to find you a red wine that you like.
Please do, Amy.
I will. All right. So did we hear anything from any of our listeners this last month?
We did. We've heard from quite a few listeners, but one in particular, Sharon from California, gave us some great suggestions for future podcasts. We really appreciate that, Sharon. And one that we had talked about and thought this would be really good, especially from your recent trip, was researching coast to coast. What's different in the states and the regions, because you can't always find the same things.
No, absolutely. It's very different in New England from California and the South and the Midwest. So you have to know where to go look to find documents because they're not in the same place, in the same area.
Right.
So I think
how do you find these things? And so you had a recent trip to Virginia.
I did. I went on a research trip to Virginia. I was there for a whole week and spent probably half my time in the county that I was researching in, and then I spent another few days at the Library of Virginia, which is just heavenly to go and spend time there. I could have spent much more time there. It was great. But so what I did was I first focused on the county level, because that's where the people that I was researching, that's where they lived, and that's where these documents would have been first created. So got to go there first, hit the courthouse. They have a wonderful genealogical library in Fauquier County, Virginia. Great little library. They have a whole Virginia research room there. It was wonderful. And they have a lot of the county records there on microfilm. I was pleased to find. And there's also a Afro-American Historical Association there in Fauquier County. They have an incredible selection of documents pertaining to African Americans who have been living in Fauquier County.
You were doing a specific research on African American family.
I'm working on an African American family there who were free black citizens. I use the word citizens, but I guess they really weren't citizens. But they were free. They were not enslaved peoples living there in Fauquier County by 1800, let's say. So they were. So I spent a wonderful day there at that the Afro-American Historical Society, and they've collected a vast amount of oral family histories as well as documents from the county. So that was great.
So do you find that Virginia, since you were doing your research specifically there, that they had all the documents that you were looking for, or what kind of troubles did you find in Virginia, or wasn't much trouble because they're really good?
Well, I mean, part of the trouble was, I was researching African American families, so that has its own trouble in the sense that, the family, of course, does eventually lead back to some enslaved people. So how do I get from the free blacks back to how do I trace them into slavery, back the path through slavery? So that's what I'm working on right now. But from what I understand, there might be some records still at the courthouse that are not made available to the public.
Ooh.
And so that would be because African Americans weren't allowed to marry legally. So once after emancipation, they would go to the courthouse and they could record that they had been living together, cohabitation records.
Okay.
And I really not sure if they actually exist or not. Some counties, they do have the cohabitation records available, but in this particular county, I did not find them. So,
okay.
And that would be great help because most of the time they will list parents' names, and that's what you're really looking. Of course, you're looking for. The Library of Virginia the librarians are so helpful, and they have so much available. You don't realize that most of what you see on that second floor is only a small portion of what they actually have. And when you start asking for them to bring you things, it's just like it's
coming out of the woodwork.
Right? It's all you can eat. But one of the more interesting items that documents I did look at while I was there was a photocopy of a diary from the Civil War period from a woman who lived in Fauquier County, and specifically she talked a lot about what she was going through during that time period. I believe it was spring of 1862, and she talks a lot about the enslaved peoples that worked for the family, the servants that worked for the family, and she talks a lot about those who have left, who have just dropped everything and gone to either Washington, D.C., but to the north, basically. And the rumors that were going around about what was going to be happening to the slaves, that they were going to be sold or they were going to be captured by the Union and sent to Florida. And so it was just very interesting to see her read her perspective on what was going on day to day.
So, Amy, was that in line with what you were researching, or was that like a shoot off?
No,
and you just got
no, absolutely
involved
not
in that.
No, it was. I wish I could have read. I wish I could have read more of those. But she was in the county at the time period that this family that I was researching was, and she actually made mention of an individual who lived in the county, a white man who had some sort of relationship with the family that I was researching.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, she only mentions him once, but she describes the house that she went with her father to visit this man. Her father had business with him, and he lived up on the mountain, and they went up to visit him. So I kind of got a little description of him, and because he was involved with this family in some way. I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, but I feel like that's where I would have dropped everything and just continued reading and been like completely on a different tangent and failure at genealogy research. It gives you a great historical context, because I'm not going to find a diary from a black family during that time period. It's not going to happen. So this was the closest I could get to recreating the life that they may have been at least observing, because they were the servants. They were they weren't living this same lifestyle, but it gave me an idea of what life was like, and they had to be affected by those rumors. What's going to happen? Even if we're free, we could be captured by the Union, and it was really more, I think, a Confederate publicity stunt to try and keep them there and keep them productive and not leave. So, trying to make the black, the African Americans then, afraid. And this is something that you wouldn't have found online. You have to physically be there
to
see that.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
but the
those
library
research trips that we talked about are very important.
It's very important, and I do have a library card at the Library of Virginia, and that does allow you to have some additional access online to some of their digital collections. They have some digital collections that are open to the public, or you can just go on their website and find.
Sure.
But then if you have your library card, you can dig a little deeper. So if you do go on these on a research trip, always get those library cards because you can use them remotely, and they might give you access to additional information. So.
Yeah, and it's nice that you can get a library card without actually having to live there in the county.
Yep.
So, let's go through, your knowledge of the country on researching. So let's start in the Northeast.
Right. So New England, I have a colleague who, at work, who she actually lives in the Boston area. And we were over at lunch one day. She was visiting Florida, and we actually kind of had a little discussion on which was easier, researching in the South or researching in the Northeast. Because, and I said, the Northeast is easier because the documents that you need are kept at a town level. So all you have to do is go to that town, and you can find everything you need there. And she's like, yeah, but you have a county, and so it's much, it encompasses more people because at the county level, you just have to go to the county courthouse and you can get everything rather than having to go from city to, from town to town to town. So I was like, well, that's the point of view. That's a good point. But in the South, we have a lot of burned counties. And so, having all those documents being sent to one location have made them more vulnerable over the years. And where if you have them county to county to county, or from city to city, town to town, they've spread out, so you have less loss per county in the Northeast. So.
Well, also in the Northeast, it's a smaller state, so it's probably a little easier to travel around if you have to go town to town.
Well, that's true. Yes, yes, and they have
here in Florida,
right? And I've always had good luck with the county. The town clerk, you call the town clerk's office and you say, could I please have this, and they'll fax it to you, or they'll they'll mail it to you, maybe for a small fee.
Very helpful.
So very helpful. The other thing that they have in New England, so just to recap, in New England, you really have to know the town and where your ancestor lived, and you have to contact that town clerk's office for the vital records, for the deeds, for the probates, all of those sorts of things. The sextons are also usually have contact information in the town, so the cemeteries are kept. In my experience, the town clerk will tell you, the sexton of that cemetery is such and such, and here's his contact information. You can just call up, and they'll be able to give you whatever information they have in the cemetery records. So, in my experience, the cemetery records have been pretty well kept there as well. There are also many abstracts because they have records going back to 16th, 17th century. So you have a lot of abstracted records that have been published that you might even find at your local genealogical library, no matter where you live. So those are always a good starting point to try and get those dates, because the town clerks are not going to go back and research for you. You have to have the dates, and if you have the date and the names, then they can pull those records. So online indexes through Ancestry, Family Search, local libraries. Also, always look for the local libraries online.
Love the local libraries.
They often have at least some marriages indexed. Local county history is indexed. And where else? For New England, AmericanAncestors.org.
Oh,
right?
Of course.
Right. The New England Genealogical and Historical Society has wonderful resources there. There's a cost. You have to be a member.
Anyone can be a member.
Anyone can be a member, and then they have just a ton of information online, both indexed.
They not only have information on the New England area, but they also cover the rest of the United States as well. So it's just because they're called the New England Historical Genealogical Society. Did I get that right? They cover everything.
It's just more than just New England.
It's a very the expense for being a member is well worth it.
Right. Anything else on New England? We can move on to New York.
Thank you. Yeah, let's move on. New York, it's a whole thing all by itself.
New York is a whole thing all by itself. It's a whole thing by itself. New York, they do have some restricted access. They are very conscious of privacy, and so it's a little bit more difficult to get more recent documents from them. The larger cities control their vital records for their particular population. So, for instance, if you're researching the New York City boroughs, you're not going to find a lot of stuff in the New York State repositories. It's going to be all there in New York City. So they control their own information, and then the state elsewhere. But, for instance, like Buffalo, the city of Buffalo, they have their own vital records. I think one of the best resources is the published by the New York Genealogical and Biographical Society is the New York Family History Research Guide and Gazetteer, which was published in 2014. I think it weighs probably 3 or 4 pounds. It's really thick, but it really takes you through all the resources in New York. So I would, definitely recommend that.
Isn't it, and I could be wrong, but do you have to be a direct descendant or relative of the person to request the information?
Yes.
In New York? Mm-hmm. Okay. Because some places anybody can get information on anybody.
Right.
Like Michigan just throws it out there online, the death records.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. Only through.
Okay.
We have to remember that each state has its own statutes on what it makes public and what it makes private.
Okay.
So what may be available in, let's say, Ohio may not be available in Michigan or Indiana.
Right.
And for different time periods. So you have to be, especially if you've been used to researching in Ohio, where you can get any document you want.
Right.
You also go to New York and you're like, what? I can't get that.
What do you mean?
Right. Exactly. So it can be very frustrating. So you have to understand what the statutes are and understand what you're going to be able to get and what you're not going to be able to get. For New York, there are not a lot of online documents. For early marriages in the New York City area, births and deaths, I always go to the Italian genealogical group. It's not just Italians. They have indexed all the marriage records, all the birth records, all the death records. Up until, I think, the birth and death are again by statute, New York statutes, about 1910. And then the marriages go through 1935. You can also get those indexes through Family Search and I think Ancestry as well. But they've done a really good job with that. So you can get early indexes and films, microfilm from the Family History Library on Family Search as well too. So, but a lot of New York research has to be done on the ground.
Oh, and speaking of the Family History Library, Family Search Library out in Salt Lake, they are now discontinuing their loan program.
I saw that.
Yes, pretty soon. I think you have till the end of August. In there to request any microfilm because everything is being digitized. That is allowed to be digitized. And then otherwise you're going to have to make a trip to Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad. It was a lot of fun going to that library.
It is. It is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun because you have everything there at your fingertips when you're there in Salt Lake.
Exactly.
So you can, everything they have on microfilm, you can get your hands on. So, but it's going to be different.
Yeah.
So, we have to think about that. The digitization is great. Very welcomed. And they have been doing a great job of uploading more and more information. So that's been good. So New York is a little tough. But I think a well-planned research plan, it will get you, what you need there.
Okay, so let's move to the Mid-Atlantic area.
Okay, so we're talking about Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Delaware, New Jersey. You've researched in West Virginia, and I just came back from Virginia.
Right.
So I'm sure you're familiar with West Virginia culture and history.
Absolutely. What a great site.
Yep. They have birth
and death and
marriage.
Marriage, all the vital records are on there, and pretty much everything that I've looked for has been on there, except for one, which is my great grandfather's death. And I know the date. I've got an obituary, but I cannot find a death certificate anywhere. Which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, you probably also have to remember, I just had this problem in Illinois where I went, and they have a death index. I didn't find this individual, but on Ancestry it says that he died and that it's there in Illinois.
Yeah.
So We'll see where the death certificate actually comes from.
Where it shows up, yeah.
So you keep in mind that there are errors on all of these indexes because they were done by individuals.
Yeah.
Human error is involved.
And I always feel that time will tell. Just put it aside, do something else, and then
eventually,
you never know what's going to pop up later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For the Mid-Atlantic, the state libraries and the archives seem to be where you need to really focus, I think. Of course, the counties have information, but a lot of the resources a lot of the documents have been sent to the state libraries and the state archives.
Okay.
Maryland, state archives, Virginia, Library of Virginia has pretty much a lot of the records from the different counties available there, So if you're researching multiple counties, go there first, and you should get a good understanding of what's available.
Start big and then go small.
Right, okay. Right. For instance, they're not going to have all the, they actually did have most of the deeds and everything. A lot of times I would say, you have to go to deeds at the county level, but I think, really. They did. Okay. Virginia did. Okay. Pretty impressive. New Jersey, the Department of State holds the genealogical and historical records. So go to New Jersey Department of State, and they have some digitized things, and they have indexes online. So that's a good place to start for New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Family Search also has a lot of probate from New Jersey online. And we have to remember that if you're looking in online databases, check to make sure that the county that you're researching is included in that database. It could say New Jersey marriages from 1600 to 1980, and you're like, great. Why is it?
Certainly I fall in there.
It's certainly my answer to he was from New Jersey. He got married in New Jersey. But check to make sure that the county that you're researching is included in that, because it could be just select counties. Or it could be your county, but they didn't send the records after this particular date. Sure. Right, exactly. So, you have it's this very broad statement, but when you look at the specifics, your county may not be there. So it doesn't mean your county doesn't have the record. They just aren't included in that particular record set. So,
okay.
Let's see, anything else? The Mid-Atlantic states also have independent cities. For instance, Richmond is an independent city.
Okay.
Winchester is an independent city, so their records are kept independent. They're not a part of a county.
So how are you going to know that? How are you going to know that the city that you're researching is independent?
You Google it, and you find it. You Google it and you figure it out.
Thank you, Google. Yeah.
For instance, the Library of Virginia has, Winchester documents separate from any other county because they're not a part of a county. Petersburg is a separate, independent city. Baltimore is independent from the county of Baltimore. So those are things to remember too when we're looking. If you don't find it, your ancestor might live near that city, so go to that city and look too.
Okay.
All right. Pennsylvania.
How about Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania's all by itself too here.
All by itself, because it's special.
It's special. Well,
we've all done research in Pennsylvania.
Right.
So you did the Pennsylvania Genealogical Society's
the Genealogical Society of Pennsylvania, GSP.
Okay.
Yes. I did.
And I'm working on one.
Good. That's great.
It's not going well. But yes, I know when I've ordered documents from there, I had to submit, like blood almost. I did to describe how I was related to this person and why I should be allowed to get that record.
Privacy is an issue, and they do have some restricted access. The good news is death certificates are online up to 1964, which is state statute going back that far. So every year they'll add death certificates as well. But the county historical societies, I think is an excellent resource in Pennsylvania. I went to York County and to the York County Archives. It's a beautiful facility. And what's marvelous about that particular facility is that it had church records from that county and nearby counties. So much of Pennsylvania is, church records that you're not going to see at the county level, that, going to the archives and having, this line of this branch of your line may have gone to this church, but then they may have switched to this church. So you can go and you can sample each one of those churches in that area to find the documents that you need, the marriages.
Very helpful.
Right. The county recorder, instead of the county clerk, which I live in the South, so I'm used to the county clerk's office. They have the county recorder of deed, and then they have the county register of wills and orphans court.
Oh.
Wills and orphans court handles marriages and probates, which are, of course, very important to genealogical research. Marriages are available, probates are available. The birth and deaths you're going to have issues with, as if you go past 64, then, 1964. So, but the earlier ones you should be able to locate either at the state, which I believe the state started in 1906. Recording deaths. Prior to that, you're going to have to go to the county level.
Gotcha.
All right,
let's leave Pennsylvania and we're going to head to the Midwest.
As our ancestors did, right?
Yes.
In that migration from New York,
Yes.
Pennsylvania, and then into the Midwest. So, and we both have researched quite a bit in the Midwest.
Certainly.
And here we have county clerks and circuit court clerks. Townships, though,
Yes.
something that is kind of new for the Midwest. You have to eat it. It's good to know what township your ancestor lived in. The county is broken up into townships, and so it's good to know what township your ancestor was in. It'll be easier to find the deeds, and they have these really great county histories that were published in the late 19th century, and it goes, have the history of each township within the county, which is kind of cool. So you may not find your ancestor named in, they might have a biography of your ancestor, but they might have a biography of a collateral relative. Maybe it wasn't your great-great-grandfather, but it was his brother. Well, that will give you some biographical information on the parents.
Yes, which is your goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Is it direct evidence? No. It's
a clue.
It's a clue for you to start looking for those names, and it helps you link those people with your people. So those are really good, and a lot of them are free on Google Books. They've been digitized and they've been put up on Google Books.
Yes.
Ohio. What have you learned about Ohio?
I'm just throwing that at me. Right?
I'm throwing it right at you. You are the Ohio expert.
I love researching in Ohio, and what I do is, I just get on the phone and I will call the town or township. I get right down to the basic there, wherever my ancestors were, and call. And these people are so helpful in the clerk's office, right at the little town level. I found that they've been very helpful to me.
That's great.
And the local libraries.
The local
I've
libraries,
gone to the local libraries.
Yeah.
We both communicated with the librarian.
Hancock County.
Hancock County. It's great. It's great. We love him. So...
Yep, Ohio History Connection, which is the Ohio Historical Society. I think in Columbus, they have a lot of indexes. They have all the death records, I think, for all Ohio counties.
Yes.
They're not online, but they know they have the films for them.
There's the OGS.
OGS also has an excellent library.
They do.
Excellent resource. For Michigan, the State Archives has records for most counties, and if you go online, seekingmichigan.org has death records. The actual digitized death record through 1952, I believe.
I just wish all my ancestors died in
I know,
Michigan,
really? Right?
Because it's all out there.
Right. Unfortunately, after 1952, you're not going to get a death record out of Michigan.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, as long as it was before. And luckily, a lot of my Ohio ancestors moved to Michigan and died there. So I've been very lucky with that.
For Indiana, of course, the Allen County Public Library has their genealogy library there, and go online, take a look what they have online.
That would be a great
indexes.
research trip all in itself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The Indiana State Archives, they have indexes and digitization, and they have all the county naturalization records. And I was able to get copies of my Swiss ancestors who moved to Allen County, Indiana in 1850. I think they naturalized... probably soon after that, I don't remember the date, but like 1860s, 1870s, and they had the naturalization records there for both my ancestor and the brother. So, and it was just, you just have to pay them. It wasn't that expensive, really. Very helpful there at the State Archives in Indiana. Cook County Genealogy, I use this site a lot.
And this is Cook County?
I'm sorry, Illinois.
Okay.
Chicago.
Yeah. Okay.
Chicago. It's just Cook County. I know Lake County is also kind of a part of the greater Chicago area, but this is just Cook County. It's free. You log in to have a login, and they have free indexes. And if you find your ancestors' record, you can pay. And then it downloads immediately. It gives you an image immediately. You can download to your computer. Unfortunately, it doesn't list parents' names. So, it just lists the name of the person and the date of the event, birth, marriage, or death. Okay. And I think the certificate number. So, all right. But if you know that that's who your ancestor,
a certificate number,
or something, you can work with it. Which is really nice. The state also has a death record index. Again, I found, or I couldn't find something in that I thought I should find. So, but they do have some privacy. Access, restricted access in Illinois, but you can get genealogical copies from the counties for marriages and things like that. So, it's worth calling the county. Minnesota has some really good online resources. They have moms.org.
Oh, that's a cool
Moms. It stands for the Minnesota Official Marriage System.
Oh.
Yeah. And it has most of the counties. It has, it might have all the counties. I haven't checked that out. It's had every marriage that I've looked for. Okay. And what you can do, it has an index. You find the marriage that you're looking for. You print the form, and then you mail it to the appropriate county clerk with your fee, and then they'll send you a copy of it.
Awesome.
Of the marriage record, which is great. And then the Minnesota Historical Society has birth and death records indexed. And then, again, you can order them directly from the Minnesota Historical Society. I believe they're I want to say they're like $9 a piece. Okay. But they'll mail them to you.
That's not bad.
And right away. So, really good resources. And I think they also have some, you need to check it out if you have Minnesota ancestry. Okay. So, I've found it very helpful.
All right.
The Midwest Genealogical Center is in the St. Louis area. I know the other thing we should mention for the Midwest is NGS, the National Genealogical Society, is having their 2018 Family History Conference in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
That's going to be exciting.
That's going to be exciting.
We might head back for that one.
We might. Yeah. But then in 2019, they just announced it's going back to St. Louis, where it was in 2015.
Oh.
And so you will have access not only if you want to go to NGS, but you'll also be able to then stop by this Midwest Genealogical Center. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that they have a lot digitized, but it's supposed to be a fabulous resource for Midwestern research. So.
I like it when there's a convention like that near a large library that is useful for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, we went to Richmond, and we spent like 2 days at the Library of Virginia.
We did.
So
we should have gone for longer.
I can go on and on. I mean, Richmond is it's fabulous.
Stop talking about Richmond.
The food is so good in Richmond. Oh my gosh, I ate so much. Gained so much weight. Okay. Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas. I segregated them out because they are restricted access states as far as what is available for genealogical researchers. And it can be really challenging. County records are at the clerk's office. Mm-hmm. I know, for example, in Iowa, you cannot get any records from Iowa, but you can go to the county and look at their records on site. And you can abstract, and you might be able to get photocopies.
Oh, okay.
But you have to be there.
Helpful.
So it might be worth it to hire a researcher
to go do that for you,
right? At an hourly rate to go do that for you.
Yeah, so cheaper than a flight.
Kansas, you can get Nebraska, you can get some probates. You can't get marriages though. So yeah, so it's a little bit more challenging.
I'm looking for an immigration record in Nebraska, or not immigration, but where they naturalized, and that's really.
Did they naturalize at the county level? At the state?
And it's it's a struggle.
Yeah. Because,
like, why did they go to Nebraska?
Yeah. Okay.
But, I'm working on it.
All right. So I would think, those are kind of challenging states.
Okay, so let's travel west.
So west. Okay, well, there's more challenges westward. Still more challenges westward.
Not only a challenge in traveling westward for our ancestors, but now it's a challenge for us.
So records are kept by the county clerk or the county recorder. A lot of times they call them county recorders in the West.
It's different.
Probates can be by district court rather than by county courts. This probably has to do with population density, so a district may handle 2 or 3 counties. So, for instance, probates, you really need to look at the district court for Colorado, and then it will tell you which county is in each district. And you can get probates, and you can get marriages. Arizona has an online index. The state of Arizona has an online index for births from 1855 through 1941.
Wow.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And death records, 1870 through 1966.
That's awesome, because that's pretty early for both of those.
Very early for, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very early for state records. Let's see. You can also get Colorado. You can get deeds as well from the county courts. Okay. But I don't know if they are indexed online or not. Yeah, they are. They are. I take that back. But I don't know how far back they go. I've only pulled deeds more recently from 20th century. Washington is really interesting. They have a lot of online index available. King County is very easy to work with. They have a lot of stuff online. So definitely if, King County, the Seattle area, take a look there. Idaho, Montana, probates and marriages are available, but they do have some restrictions. Obviously, no birth and on death certificates. It has to be family only.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And that's been my experience there. California, again.
Oh, your favorite.
California, it's tough only because you have to know what county to go to, and they're not always indexed. So, or trying to find an index can be challenging. I just found a site called NoCal, which stands for Northern California NoCal Genealogy. And it seemed to have a lot of links to different indexes throughout the state. Nice. So I want to check that out a little bit more. The State Library and the California Genealogical Society and Library are resources that should be definitely tapped into. And, of course, they have the big jamboree. The Southern Cal Jamboree. Yes. So that would be something, if you are researching in California, you should probably attend and check out. But they also have privacy issues, but you can get genealogical copies usually of marriages. You just have to know what county it is and what the date is, and getting to those indexes can be tricky.
Okay.
In my view. Gotcha. And then I totally forgot about the South.
No, let's head back to the South.
I mean, we live in the South.
We're in the South.
I research all day.
Save the best for last.
Yeah, right. No. Exactly. But records are located in the South, in the county or the county circuit courts. So everything is centralized at pretty much one location. The biggest challenge in the South is that we have a lot of burned counties.
Yes.
And it's not just you can't blame Sherman and the Union Army for all of the burning.
So I'm building everything in wood.
Right. It's wood.
And let's use some candles to go look at stuff.
Yeah. And, we have these seasons. We have a lot of rain, but we also have some dry season too.
Certainly.
So there have been fires over the years that have just unfortunately destroyed documents in the South. State archives are really, go to look at the county level, but also look at the state archives. Very valuable resources in the state archives in the South. Confederate pension applications, a lot of genealogical information in those, and those would be held at the state level, because each state gave pensions to their residents. Many have been digitized. And in Florida, the State Archives of Florida has been digitized. And those are online at the Florida Memory.
What a great site!
I just totally blanked out on
too.
that. Yeah,
if
exactly.
You've got ancestors in Florida, which I don't. But
North Carolina, if you really have a lot of North Carolina research, you should get Helen Leary's book. I mean, that's the classic of North Carolina research. South Carolina is a completely different animal from other.
It's like very special.
They're very special. I definitely would recommend, if you have South Carolina research, because they don't have, they have counties now, but they didn't have counties. Historically, they had districts, and things changed from decade to decade. So it's kind of a constantly moving thing. You really have to track the history of the jurisdictional regions to be able to track where the records would be for your ancestor.
And don't forget, if you're in Louisiana, you've got a parish, not a...
That's a very good point. Absolutely.
Yeah. The parishes.
They have parishes. They don't have counties, right? So you have to know the parish where your ancestor had their documents. And so South Carolina, the State Archives, and the South Carolinian Library.
Sure.
Very important as far as genealogical research goes. And I would definitely recommend, as a matter of fact, I recommended to our friend Valerie, the NGS, the National Genealogical Society's Research in the States series.
Now, these are publications that you can order.
If you're a member...
I think we have a link to it on our website.
Great. Yeah. You get... I don't know if there's a discount if you're a member of NGS or not, but they cost like, what, $10, $15, something like that. And they're just, let me see, this one, I actually took the one from Virginia on my trip to Virginia. They're about 50 pages. They're soft bound, really, really worth it. Not only because it tells you what information you can expect to find in the particular state, but it also, if you read the footnotes, it tells you publications, it tells you articles that have been published pertaining to that particular topic that you're looking at. And so when I was at the Library of Virginia, I was able to actually pull some of those articles to give me more information and ideas on whether
and yours is well highlighted
research.
Too. I see that.
Yes, absolutely, it is.
And it does give you website locations, and it covers quite a bit of material for each state. I know I have Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia, Pennsylvania. I think I have a couple others, because those are the main states that I'm researching.
They don't have all states. They haven't published all states. And I don't know, you and I didn't go to NGS this year. The previous year at NGS, they had published 2 new ones, Florida and Michigan. Was that it? I think it was Michigan.
Okay.
But so they're continuing.
They continue to come out.
Yep.
Also, the Family Tree magazine. If you don't subscribe to that, I highly recommend it. They have great toolboxes in there, which gives you like not kits, but it is like a toolbox kit that helps you with your research. But they also throw in a lot of state research materials. This recent one, the one that just came out for July-August, has Mississippi and Hawaii.
Interesting combination.
Neither of which are helpful to me. But they're great state research guides, and you can go online, just Google them. You know, we love Google. And just Google Family Tree Magazine State Research Guides, and it will tell you which publication has a state that maybe you're interested in. And, of course, the Bible for this is the Ancestry's Red Book, American State, County, and Town Sources.
Right. Again, I mean, that's the first thing you pick up and you look at.
Yes.
Most genealogical libraries will have a copy that you can go and you can say, okay, you know, I'm looking for a marriage record from 1750 in this county, and you go to this book and it says, marriage records are not available during that time period, So it will tell you what is available and what the dates are.
Yes.
Where they are available.
Yeah,
and if there's
dates.
And if there's any burned, if there's any destruction in the county, it'll also tell you that as well. So.
Yes. Know your dates before you call people or write letters for something because, that's a waste of your time and their time to be able to say, I'm sorry, but we don't have those records. So this is a great resource. You can, mine is not an up-to-date one. I think I have an older one because I got it on eBay or somewhere. But it's worth it to have a more up-to-date, the most recent version.
And it's just really important if you are, your genealogy research has taken you to this particular location. First thing you need to do is find out about that location. Find out what the repositories are that are available, what the county courthouse has, what the library has, are there historical societies, are there genealogical societies, reach out to those first. It's a simple email,
Yeah.
And then, it makes you look like you know what you're doing, that you want to do good genealogical research in that area.
Absolutely.
So, search them all. Archive Grid. And, one thing we didn't talk about was state libraries, especially in the South. I know the state library systems often have very good collections of local and state histories and newspapers they may have available. I know University of Florida has Florida newspapers digitized online. We don't have a great collection here in Florida because paper and hot, humid weather doesn't really mix, but those are available.
Right. And I feel like we say these things over and over again, but I don't think we can talk about them enough, the libraries and the newspapers and things like that, just to make sure you don't overlook these sources for researching your ancestry.
We probably need to do a podcast just on newspapers, right? Because they're something that it's critical to
and they're so
research.
Fun.
And they are
fun. The
Yeah.
stuff you can find out on newspapers is just crazy.
It's true. Don't overlook those county histories, especially. I've noticed them most in the Midwest. It seems maybe they might have some in New England and New York as well. I haven't looked, but those my ancestors have been in them, or their sibling was in them, and so I was able to get some genealogical information out of that. Let's see. What else? Contact a local genealogist, too. Go to APG, the Association of Professional Genealogists. See if there are any professional genealogists working in that county. Email them. They may charge you for an hour to chit-chat on the phone, but that's worth it.
Way cheaper than a flight up there.
Right, right. And they may totally jumpstart your research, after that hour chit-chat with them.
Because if they are specific to that county or that state, they know things that you're not going to know or couldn't even get off of anything online or books or whatever. They're right in there. They're in the trenches.
Yeah, they should definitely be a great help, and it would be very. It might seem like it's a lot of money up front, but it will save you a lot of time, and it'll be a good investment.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a pretty long podcast.
Yes, we had a lot.
We went coast to coast. We covered the entire United States, and
we're back.
So.
And I'm going to apologize if there's any weird background sound from my dog Dexter, who's been
barking.
Been in the crate, but he doesn't like it. He wanted to be part of the podcast, and he was not allowed. So hopefully y'all didn't hear that. But if you did, so sorry.
All right, till next time.
Till next time, when we are going to have a guest speaker on organizing your personal archives.
Absolutely. So until then, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening. Please email us with any questions or comments at genealogyhappyhour@gmail.com.
Visit our website, www.genealogyhappyhour.com, for additional resources, books, and wines. Don't forget to drink responsibly
and never drink around genealogical documents.